But it's the only way you're ever gonna learn. You look back and it's all in the past. I'm dwelling on the thoughts I cannot say to you. If I don't say the words, then maybe it's not true. And it feels alright.
Good evening, welcome along to NUFC Matters with me, Steve Wraith. It's Wednesday night, Geordies here, Geordies there returns with George, Stu, Mitch, Alwaleed and Steve joining us on the panel tonight. And as always, plenty to talk about with regards to Newcastle United. And George, it's another couple of months wait for silverware. We didn't win the Eusebio Cup.
Yeah. However, it did give them a real test, a real run out. In fact, I've enjoyed the whole Portuguese thing because it's revealed so much. First thing it revealed to me is the detail our owners are going into to make everybody happy. I was gobsmacked when I saw the lads training, and around the pitch there were people working on the turf. And I thought, hey, I see him at St James's Park. They're taking all our ground staff lads to work on the pitches while they were there. What an idea! I mean, you know, if you want to get your best out of your club, that's the way to start at the bottom with the lads that do the pitch. And I thought that was fantastic. And then as it went through and you saw more and more, the other bits that I find really pleasing is they've done, or Howe's done what he said, and he's given Elliot Anderson a chance to show what he can do, and he's shown very well what he can do. And then, lo and behold, the other night, in a big match against Benfica, he brings other under-21 lads, some of them very new, like the lad Murphy from Ireland, who didn't disgrace himself, and Dowd's well. They really look the part. So all of that is fantastic. And yes, it would have been nice to have won. But even in the match, it was good to see some of the bits, well, sometimes get called not bit players, but Almiron's had a checkered existence under Bruce, like so many people. Well, last night he showed the sort of form he shows when he plays internationally, and I think that was great, absolutely fantastic. And Trippier was just Trippier, outstanding again. And you know, there were some good things in it. As to Joe Linton getting sent off, well, Joe Linton was just Joe Linton. He's newfound venom and anxiousness to win for Newcastle is coming out in spades now. So all he's got to do is just to curb it a little bit. He doesn't want to get sent off in the Premiership. But that, you know, the first booking was nonsense. It was he should have just left it alone and he walked away. But I have to say that the only downside in all of it was the referee. I've never seen anything quite like that. I mean, that was just nonsense. However, the other plus side is that how the lads on the touchline were up for it as well. When there was that melee, you know, Tyndall and them were all in amongst it. Was great. I thought, well, that's smashing. That there's a sign that together is what I'm trying to say in a very clumsy way.
Anybody wonders where I get my love for shithousery from? You'd never guess, would you?
He loves it.
Yeah, it's been great, Steve. And yes, pity we didn't win, but there's lots more pluses than the winning, I have to say.
Yeah, Stu, I'm not sure if you've seen the game, but it was good. Yeah. And somebody's just made the point there. You know, we've come a long way. David Elliott says we've come a long way from losing to National League North York City to going toe-to-toe with a Champions League opposition.
Yeah, well, after listening to George there, you might have to change it from Geordies here, Geordies there to Geordie Agro. So there was a couple of things I wanted to say before answering your question. First of all, was happy anniversary to yourself and the good lady for yesterday.
Thanks,
and to Mr. Hasty and his far better half today.
All the best to Steve, yes. And he's far better half.
So I've got that out the way. The friendly itself, I'll probably just echo a lot of what George has said. But the ref looked very angry, didn't he? Whenever he was speaking to the Newcastle player, he looked like extremely pissed off. And the only conclusion I could come with is sometime in the past, his wife must have had a fling with a Geordie when she was at home. It's the only thing I can think of, because he was wanting to square up, and you could see his eyes bulging and everything. But the red card, to be fair, was deserved. And I've thought this for a while, that Joelinton is, if you go back even to the Spurs game away when we got stuffed, when he shoved the lad to the ground and stuff, and then we all know that he put Dele Alli on his arse in the tunnel. So he's got this aggression, and I think what George was saying is he needs to channel it in the right way. And I'm glad it was a friend he got sent off in, and not like the league game. But what he needs to do, it's fantastic that he is, and he's walking around the pitch or strolling around the pitch like Robocop now. So you can see he's got so much belief in himself. He's just got to learn when to use it and when not to use it, and let his talent do the talking as well. But overall, I thought we went toe-to-toe with the team that competes in the Champions League every year, occasionally getting to the later stages as well. And we didn't look out of place. Of course, they would have had possession at times, but that's going to happen against good teams. I don't think there's anything that can be said about Miggy in a positive way that hasn't already been said. Looking at it as a rather, how do I mention this, devil's advocate way, I have to disagree with George. I thought defensively Trippier looked a bit suspect, and I believe that Benfica seemed to target that, and that's been the theme since, if you look what Grealish did to him when he first came back at the end of last season, and also again in Austria. But I think it's just fussiness. We all know the cream will always rise to the top, and he is a quality defender, and he seems to have a good understanding with Miggy, who seems to have decided that's where I'm going to play and that's where I want to play, and he's enjoying it, and that's the thing. I know he always plays with a smile on his face, but he's actually enjoying playing in that role, and the confidence he's been given, and that you can see this reflected in his performances.
Yeah, I would agree with you, mate. Mitch, what's your views on last night's game? Your dad mentioned the youth. It reminds us of the Chicken Road Academy whenever he starts talking about it.
Yeah, absolutely. But you know, the youth was, I mean, that Bondswell who come on at left back, I think he looks like he's got a little bit about him. I like the cut of his jib. He's not frightened to stick a tackle in. And, you know, playing against, like we can keep saying, the team who regularly pushes through the Champions League past the group stages. To come on as a kid into a left back role and put some of the challenges in he put in, hey, fantastic, confidence. And there's so many positives to take out of it, and I always ignore the results, unless it's like, you know, getting hammered 6-0 at home off of somebody like Altrincham, you know. That would concern us. But going to Barcelona and playing the way we did, Barcelona, that's because I've been talking FFP all afternoon. Going to Benfica and playing the way we did and looking as good and taking so many positives away from the whole trip. And yet, perhaps that's a good time for Joelinton to see a red card. And so the staff can take him to one side and say, yep, we don't want to lose that, because you'd take that out of your game, you'd be back to the timid little wallflower you were when you were playing up front. But you need to now remind yourself to channel it properly. I did like the little translation I saw from someone on Twitter who's lived in Brazil for a bit of time, translating, lip reading what was said between the players. It was certainly X-rated exchanges afterwards, and you need that passion, and it's there before we've kicked the ball in anger, really. And so there's so many good things to come out of that entire experience and the whole sort of trips away we've had. And now we're coming in towards the friendlies at home, which again, we're keeping it at a much higher level than we've done in previous years, and we're playing at a much better pace, and we'll look fitter and we'll look more up for it. And I just have this feeling we might have a few more surprises in store ahead of the weekend. There's just feelings come out of St James's Park are getting better and better ahead of this season, and I'm personally ignoring all the negatives. We've got far too many positives to enjoy.
Mute, Steve.
A good run out, Al-Walid, from, you know, Newcastle playing York City last season to losing 1-0 to them, and then to play Benfica last night and give them such a good performance. You know, drew level twice, good goals from Almiron, and from our perspective, you know, it was just it was a good test.
Yes, yesterday, actually, fans in Saudi Arabia they really watch the game closely, and we discussed this through Twitter Space for many hours. But a big part of me was wanting the cup, wanted the cup to win, and other part went to really explore what we need really. The game yesterday, I enjoyed a big part of it. There is work being done. We know that still we are development, but I can say that four great players will make much difference and will be ready to win the to be in top four in Premier League and go to Champions League. If we get 4 players, and these position yesterday was very clear to me. We really need defense midfielder, a classic defense midfielder, because the best one who can really do the job is Shelby, and it's actually not his really. Shelby, we know he's center midfielder, not a classic defense midfielder. Bruno tried to play this part, but there is duplication. He want to be in the front, he want to be behind the strike, do some attacking and do defensive role at the same time, which make it difficult for him. We always say through the summer, right winger is Almiron or Fraser. We have weakness. Almiron did a great job really, and I think he the most player who score, and he really, and I see big cooperation with Trippier on the right side, better than the left side with Maximin and Target. This was really seen. Disappointed from Wood, really. Maybe Wilson, but the number 10 position, Elliot Anderson was great, but I don't think this is the solution for long-term solution. We really need, I think, for example, Tielemans. Of course, we wanted Eriksen before, but Tielemans, I think, can do for us with maybe we can say Diaby or Werner as the names. I think those names will do such a big difference for Newcastle, and hopefully within 1 year we get these names or maybe look-alike names.
Steve, Miggy Almiron's getting a lot of praise, I think, and quite rightly so. Pre-season, he's certainly, found the back of the net on more than one occasion, and I think that's something that he needed to add to his game. And we might just have, the re-emergence of a player there.
Very much so. I mean, when before we signed him from Atlanta, he was known for banging goals in, and I think did he hit the post in the first game, and that would have probably been the floodgates had that gone in. But he certainly showed last night how to finish, as he did in the Palace game last season, and it shows if he can get into the box and get the ball given to him. Both given last night by Trippier, who overlapped first, and then the other one he put him through, and his clinical finishing was tremendous. And I think he's not blind to the fact that all the speculation is that the position he's currently holding in the team is the one that we're looking to replace. So he's obviously going to be trying to.
Oh, he's gone. He's frozen in time.
Oh, am I here? Yes, still
You're
there?
back now, mate. Yeah, you've passed the tipping point. You're back. We'll come to that in a minute.
Yeah, we'll come to that. But I think looking at it overall, I don't think Eddie Howe's given anything away what the team's going to be. He's played, as he played in the game at Burnley, he swapped teams around, and he.
Oh, he's gone again. Somebody must be ringing you, Steve, or is it your internet reception?
Am I there again?
You
got us?
You're back again, mate. You're back in the room.
I rebooted my PC before I started, so it shouldn't be that.
Well, they're not still on dial-up south of the Tate Lake.
Maybe it's something to do with that.
Get the hamsters running faster.
Overall, as I say, I don't think he's given anything away about what the team is, because he's put 2 different teams out. Bruno first half, Joe Linton, people you might expect to play with him in the second half. Likewise up front, I think Murphy did quite well on the left wing. Is that telling us something? So be interesting to see what teams he puts out and how he plays it on Friday and Saturday this week. So still looking forward. I'm actually going on Saturday. I'm not going to Friday night, but I'm actually going, which is first time in years I've been to a pre-season friendly. So we're looking forward to seeing that and what the new ground's like, which maybe we'll get onto that later on as well.
Yeah, going to be interesting to see the developments within the ground. I was going to ask people to ask George, but people are already asking. So I've got enough questions for Ask George tonight. But regular viewers of NUFC Matters will know that we did start off a new feature. And here we'll go again. Now, for my first two match, we've been doing the rounds. Did I ask anybody to do one this week? I didn't. Well, it's a good job because I've got one in. Mr.
Right.
B, Alex Brett, says, Steve, my first match was in 1990. I was there, mate. It was the 1st of January. 4-1 home defeat against Wolves, and I took a ball square in the face from a clearance, but had to hold back the tears as I was surrounded by Geordies. I don't really need to go over the match other than this man, Steve Bull, wrecked our New Year's Day by scoring not one, not two, not three, but all 4 goals. And he later on went on to do a news report, an interview with a newspaper a few years back where he said, "Here we go. I scored 4 against Newcastle and could have been more if I'd been sober." So it makes it even worse. He was mortal when he scored those 4 goals. So most of us were that day. But thanks for that, Alex. Much appreciated. Anyone else has got some stories about the first game, send them to me at Steve Wraith on Twitter, and we will feature them on the show. Everybody, George, wants to talk about this one tonight, and it's Geordie Tune for Life says, lads, this loan we've taken out from HSBC, am I wrong in thinking that it is so we can buy better quality players and pay the selling clubs nearer the fee? They want to be able to put cash on the table. Lots of people asking about it. Tell Ross, Musk ask what you lads think of the club taking a loan against TV money and ticket revenue. Other clubs have done it. But worry regarding the squad. Lots of people just, haven't got a clue what it's all about. I've read a little bit in the Chronicle about it, George. I'm sure you probably have. What's been your take on this news today?
Well, it's sensible spreading the cash as far as I can see it. It gives them it gives them some petty cash to play with directly rather than just relying on the millions of PIF. And it gives them an opportunity to do big things and little things quietly and when they need to, and not have to let the world know what they're actually about and talking to the big money brokers. I think it's something previous owner did, because somebody's already mentioned the last time we did this, we bought Miggy at Newcastle. He was the result of a loan against positive future earnings, and I think it's just sensible money management is how I'd describe it. It gives them a cash balance they can use if and when they like, without having to get into high finance dealings.
Stu, it's I think it just has people scratching their head, and I mean, we don't all have business degrees. We all don't deal in finance and the big high flying finance. And I think it's just a little bit of a fool's guide that Newcastle fans sometimes need, because to most fans, it's PIF have come in, we're the richest club in the world. Why we're taking bank loans out? That's the way people look at it.
Well, I've got a business studies A level, but you've asked the right person if you want to give an idiot's guide. So here I go. Well, actually, I did understand it, and I was very impressed myself because you can imagine this afternoon I was speaking to the two sages that are Mitch and Steve Hasty, and I says, "Is this the situation?" I was told correct. So basically, the way I'll explain it is, it's a case of what's good for the goose is good for the gander, or for people of a certain generation, as in our generation, if you go back to being younger. Bobby Brown said it much better than me. Two can play that game. So if you've got Chelsea and Tottenham and Man City previously borrowing money against future earnings, it gives them liquidity. So like cash to spend, and it stops the eyes staring at us saying, where are you getting your money from? Because I've covered previously that people keep banging on with the richest club in the world. We're not with the richest owners. We have to generate our own money to become the richest club in the world. And we've been stifled left, right, and centre from the Premier League with different things that have been implemented. And so, yes, if we then took, let's say, an interest-free loan from PIF, that would cause a lot of controversy and the negative spotlight would shine on us once more. So we'll just copy what others have done. The difference is we can pay it back whenever we want to pay it back. Others are borrowing themselves up to the hilt because the one word I like to use is fear. They are scared witless of what's coming with us, and they are gambling against staying in the Champions League and using the money for that. And if they don't, some of them will fail. And I think Tottenham's the one that's on the precipice more than most. And they'll be in a position where if they don't get Champions League again, how they're going to reinvest to get back into the Champions League, and then how they're going to service the loans they've already got, etc., etc. So that's probably a longer and more boring explanation of it. But for what people really want to hear is it gives us funds now where we can go and buy who we want. And instead of spreading it over 5 or 6 years, which isn't really attractive to the selling club, we could say, right, we can give you a bigger lump of sum up front, and that might reduce the total price. For example, we'll use the one that everyone's talking about is Paqueta. If they're asking for 50 million euros, we'll say, right, we can give you, this is an example, by the way, we can give you 25, 30 million of that up front, and we'll spread the remainder over the next 2 or 3 years. We've got the liquidity, we can justify it, we can prove it, it's all in the books, and that's more likely for him to want to come to us. So that's my boring explanation of what happened, but it will allow people like Paqueta, Tielemans, or Barnes, or Harrison to come in. It will also, other clubs have done it to maybe focus on our left-sided position. Because the one thing I did want to cover tonight was, over the last 2 weeks, we've been linked with Harvey Barnes, Draxler, Harrison, Werner. They're all left-sided midfielders, and there's no coincidence there. I was informed something over the back end of the, was it the end of the week, Mitch, or Sunday or Monday?
Aye, Sunday.
From what we can only describe as rock-solid information, that Tottenham are strongly interested in ASM, and Newcastle aren't against them leaving, but they need to get cover. Now, this loan allows them to go and buy who they want, which would then allow that to go out. So I started off covering the basics of the loan and then just dropped a little bombshell at the end for you.
As always a little bombshell.
Pass it on to Mitch now.
Right, Neil, can we have the more intellectual version now, please, for the intellectual supporters watching?
As you could probably guess, I could probably do an hour on this question alone. There's a number of sensible reasons why this is being done, and it's a very common business practice everywhere. If you look at companies like Apple, Google, Amazon, they are cash rich, and their business has a certain value, but they don't want to spend their own cash. It's actually cheaper for them to leverage the cash at a decent rate and use the bank's cash to spend and grow the business, and then pay that back at an acceptable rate. From an FFP point of view, it's not the loan per se that matters, it is your ability to pay the loan back. And that's basically the interest bit. That's the only bit that's going to get chucked into any FFP calculation, not the loan. And so that's why Barcelona can owe as much as they do and still go around making bids for players and seemingly being able to do what they want. But what they've done is a little different. We've only leveraged 1 year ahead, so we've got a really good idea about what's going to come in, minimum, from last year. Gives you a ballpark figure. We're now not paying for players up front the way that Ashley was, in full. We are paying players in instalments. So say that leverages us 150 million. We could probably buy 4 players with that. That could be 4 down payments, bang, 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 bang. We know they've been busy. We don't know who they've been busy with exactly because the place is locked down beautifully. But we know there's activity, and this move seems to be, there's a tipping point in the window where they're going to say, right, we've got the deals we want here now. Let's absolutely make it happen. So that's another good reason for it to happen. From an FFP point of view, everybody's doing it, but the biggest difference is what Barcelona are doing is they don't have the cash or the asset value to cover some of the loans they've got, and they're leveraging against 4 or 5 years worth of money. That's what Leeds did, and that's what Leeds got into bother with. Mm-hmm. And so they're taking their cash and they're sticking it all on black, basically. Whereas this is a very sensible business practice done across many, many businesses, and it's done with thought. It means PIF don't have to dip into their own pockets. We're dipping into somebody else's pockets to use the money. But the other thing significantly it does for Newcastle United, it doesn't complicate things. We have an 80-10-10 ownership structure from PIF, PCP and the Reuben brothers. If PIF wanted to cash inject, which as owners they are quite entitled to do, if they wanted to bundle 300 million into the club, they could. However, 10% of that's got to be matched by PCP and 10% of that's got to be matched by the Reuben brothers. Otherwise, their shareholding is diluted. And if all the things that we had chucked were when the trust were running the pledge, that was my concern about the pledge. Yes, we can buy 5%, 10% of the club, but to keep that, if anybody wants to invest in the club, we've then got to find that again. And there seemed to be no thought through about how that was going to happen down the line. This is definitely thought through with the fact that it doesn't complicate matters with the ownership structure. It's somebody else's money coming in an illegal way, FFP, very thought through. Everybody's doing it, so why don't we? Doesn't dilute the ownership structure, it means less complication. It's a secure loan in terms of we know what we're going to be getting and coming in. We're not sticking anything on any black or red here. This is basically sensible business practice done by multiple multi-million-pound businesses around the world every day, and we shouldn't be worried about it. It's very, very different to the gamble that Barcelona are taking. FFP looks at the interest rate and what you're paying back. That's why when the Glazers took over Man United with their leveraged bid, the top end of that money on the highest interest rate was what crippled Man United's transfer plans, because they had to make sure they paid back that money and comply with FFP that way. And this is the whole essence of why a leveraged takeover is a very different beast to the takeover PIF have done, because they're cash rich and there's no leverage in the buying of the club. So we can leverage as much as we want, almost. And it's clever because then PIF keep their cash in the bank and we can go and spend sensibly, but we'll be sensibly spending somebody else's money in the short term, but we'll get the cash now, not at the end of the season. So that again gives us spending power now, not at the end of the season. And it's the spending power we need now. So I think that's pretty much covered everything, I think.
Thanks very much, Mitch. Steve Middlemiss, you've made financial fair play a lot clearer. Al-Walid, people asking about sponsors. I'm afraid I can't pronounce that name. You may have more success than me, Al-Walid. Strange, where is the official sponsor of Newcastle? Will it be Saudi Airlines, the NUM project, the Red Sea Islands project, the Al Ula Development Authority? The list goes on. I think a lot of people are still confused, I think is probably the way to describe it. Mitch has probably alleviated a lot of the confusion, but what's your thoughts on what's happening at the moment?
The word was Al Qiddiya, which is a big project, and they will sponsor four top four teams in Saudi Arabia. Actually, Dr. Dale really described it very well, and I already understand clearly, because I was once confused about the whole sponsor matter, and I had the chance to host Kieran Maguire for one of the shows I was doing, and I asked him many questions, and he said basically it's the cash flow. So I think they are buying time. It's easy maybe to have the money from the bank. It's easy to maybe explain for fair plays, because Kieran Maguire says many ways to make money for Newcastle. They can do some tournament in Middle East, and it will give them a big amount of money. But I think it's all matter about cash flow and buying time, and maybe easy explained. And I'm sure the expert Newcastle have financial expert, and this is maybe best option on paper for them. And which also good news. This will explain maybe, and that's mean maybe this is a sign that we will have maybe top class A player in coming days.
I'd agree something shifted, I've got to say. And a little chuck in about the sponsorship. My understanding from somebody close to PAF who had worked on part of one of the deals was what they wanted on the shirt for this season was Experience Alula. Alula was the thing they wanted to have pushed. It's a UNESCO heritage site. There's a lot of good positive reasons why. It happens to be, I believe, MBS's favourite place to go to, but I don't know how much truth in that there is, but that was what I was told they were pushing to get on the shirt.
Just
get funny 88 off.
Interject, Mitch, and I know that we've discussed this, but what this does is an example of, to me, it's making a mockery of what financial fair play is meant to be. It's basically just, for want of a better phrase, kicking the problem down the road a little bit. And the clubs are just getting more and more in debt. They're all chasing the golden goose. And this is all aimed towards the European Super League, isn't it? There's only 4 Champions League places in the UK, but if 6 or 7 or 8 teams are budgeting to get in the Champions League, then, there will be tears. Thankfully, we're in a position where if it did come to have to be financed or paid off, then we could do it. Other clubs aren't in that position. And this is where, to me, as I said at the start, financial fair play is getting made a mockery of. This. It's an accountant, well, someone said wet dream I read earlier, but it's an accountant's dream where they're allowed to just move like pieces of checkers around the board, isn't it? It's like playing drafts. Ultimately, you're still gonna get the end and win, but it's a way of cheating, if you want a better phrase. It's cheating the system to try and gain an advantage. And what Newcastle have done is they've tried to do everything by the book, and every time they were going to do something, it was like, we'll stop you with this paw, you go that way, we'll stop you with that paw. So they've just decided to mimic what the big boys are doing, and they can't say a word about it because they've done it first. That's it.
Steve Wilkinson, your thoughts on the financial situation? I mean, I think it's been well explained by Mitch and Stuart. Does that make you sleep a bit easier?
Yeah, I think as I've said, it's something that you do in business. I ran my own business for a while years ago, and one of the sayings that people are
he's gone again. He's like Norman Collier. Hip up, hip. He's back again. Mac and Wi-Fi.
It is.
Yeah.
Steve,
and having working capital that you can get your hands on quickly is important, and that's what they're doing. They'll have gone into the bank with a business plan, which includes the sponsors that they're expecting to get probably at the end of the year, the sort of thing that you're already talking about, who they probably want on the shirts, and ideally would want them on now, but there's a contract in with Fun 88 that has to expire. So they're obviously leveraging against the fact that the business plan will say, well, this time next year we'll have this company on the shirts and various other sponsorships of ground and trading ground, etc. And that's when so the money's there, and we're just doing like everybody, all the other clubs are doing. So I don't see any difference.
Interesting stuff. Thanks for filling in the everybody on the show on that, Stu and Mitch. Well done, lads. It's good to hear that, and it just keeps it simple. That's what we need. Steve Wilkinson, just a quick one on tipping point. You were back on again, but it was a repeat, wasn't it?
It was a repeat, yes. If anybody wanted the 10,000 quid that I didn't win, then it was already spent years ago. It was actually a program. I applied in 2018. It shows you how things move slowly. I applied in
Moving even slower at the minute.
Steve, your internet's a nightmare tonight, mate. It's a nightmare tonight.
I'll reboot after this. I'll have a go and I'll reboot and see what happens.
Okay, go on. We've got you again.
So it was recorded in 2019. I had an audition first of all, and it recorded in 2019. We're sworn to secrecy for a year. You had to sign the Official Secrets Act. And it went out in March 2020, just before the lockdown, and obviously that was a repeat the other night. I haven't reached Dave yet. That's for 10 years time when you'll see us on Dave or something like that. So, but sadly, I didn't win the 10,000. So I think, as you said on Monday on the transfer show, Steve, you're going to have to get the beers in. So that's very good of you. What night's that happening? Thank you very much.
It's when Mitch and Stu are here, so you better get to the bar before them, otherwise your drink tokens will be gone. We'll try and hook up on Saturday, Steve. I'll get you a pint in there because they're not here then. That's probably the best thing to do. Okay, as always.
Have you taken a loan out, Steve, for this?
I've taken an HSBC. Financial fair play for NUFC matters. Now that I know that's what I'm going to do.
Future beers, yeah.
I hope you didn't leverage against me winning 10 grand, because then you'll have lost it.
All right, it's time for Ask George. Questions flying in for George. Barry Hogan says, question for George, who would you say is the greatest non-UK player that the Toon have ever had?
Well, he's answered his own question. George Robledo for me. I mean, Steve, you and I have discussed in the looking back over the years.
Yeah,
you know, here's a player that came from Chile and 2 seasons outscored the famous Jackie Milburn. I mean, he if it hadn't been for those 2 seasons, Jackie would have been top of the scorers for about 8 seasons. But there were 2 seasons when Rob Leader was just untouchable. And the last one I can remember off the top of my head was 42. He played every game, 42 games, and 41 goals. Now imagine what it'd be like if you did that nowadays, you know. So you answered his own question. He was clever, he was robust, he was everything you'd want in an attacking centre forward or midfielder.
We've got a few here, George. We'll try and fly through these. Blue Rhythm Boy says, ask George, who's been our best striker in the post-Shearer era, George?
Post-Shearer? Well, that's a good one. I thought there was going to be a one about Shearer himself. Well, we've had 1 or 2 interesting. I mean, what do you call post-Shearer? Is what I'm.
Players after Shearer.
Yeah, that's right. But I mean, after Shearer went, we had the likes of Ferdinand and others hanging around for a while after, didn't we?
No, I mean, we've got
Ferdinand went first.
Demba Ba. We've had Cisse, Obafemi Martins.
Yes. Don't forget Manu Riviere.
Riviere.
I think
Stefan Guivarch.
Callum Wilson.
I think Demba Ba, you know, it comes to my mind because he was clever, but some of his goals were just outstanding. So Demba Ba's up there, as is Cisse. I mean, they're the players I was thinking about, but I just was looking at where else there could be. No, Demba Ba, who you know, you lads said it for us. Demba Ba would be the one.
Okay, and Loic Remy for me, probably just out of interest. I think if he'd been permanent, that would have stole it for me. Toronto Toon Army says, ask George if the David McCreary injury at St James's Park was the worst injury that he's seen. I can't remember it.
It's not, but it was close to it. One of the worst injuries I've seen, and it was worse for me because I knew the lad very well, was George Dalton, the fullback. George Dalton's leg was just completely desiccated from the knee down over, and his patella was nearly round the back of his knee. It was such a mess. So George Dalton's the worst, but David McCreary wasn't far off.
Okay, next question is from David Cook. He says, ask George, how much did he rate Tony Green?
Well, we've had this one before. Tony Green would have been, and was developing into one of the best players Newcastle ever had. That's how far I would go. He was absolutely incredible. What's amazing about Tony Green, and perhaps it's one of the reasons his career was cut short, he was a very slight guy. He was only a little guy in terms of physique. But by Jove, he had power, he had an engine. I laugh when I hear people talking about box-to-box midfielders. Well, Tony Green could do all of that. He could score goals. He could pass a 60-yard pass. He could pass a 3-yard pass, and all would be very dangerous. So Tony Green, we really lost a gem then. And I always, and I've said it on here before, and I don't care if I upset anybody about it, but I always think that Newcastle went for the insurance far too soon with Tony Green.
Okay, Sefton Mag says, can you ask George if he ever played football with an old laced-up leather case ball? First
few years of, from the age 10 up to about the age 18. I've played on St James's Park when it was like a midden, when you up your ankles in mud, and the ball weighed twice at the end, weighed twice what it did when we started, and it had a lace in. Yeah, so yes is the short answer. It was always interesting that how the weight of the ball changed as well. We're now they're plasticized, so they don't take on the water. It all comes off. Where in those days the leather just absorbed it, so you ended up with a ball with a lace, which was far heavier than when you started.
Last question from Alan. He says, question for George. Did you see Albert Stubbins play? I was his postie and wide open, and he was a lovely man. He was loved so much by Paul McCartney. He was on the cover of Sgt. Pepper's. Yeah, Warrington Minge told us that.
That's right.
What's your thoughts on that then, George?
Well, yes,
Albert
I did.
Did you see him play?
Well, not only did I see him play, I met him countless times because he went to school with my father-in-law. He went to school with Jimmy the Joiner, Neil. And if ever he was in the northeast, him and his wife used to come and see me mother and father-in-law. And of course, when I was younger, if he came in, the first thing my father-in-law used to say was, "Oh, George is signed for the tune, you know." And so yes, but I did see him play, and it was in my first game.
Okay.
I seen him play. Yeah.
Great stuff. As always, ask George every Wednesday on Geordies Here, Geordies There. Quick shout out to the sponsors. Big thank you to Spider Miner Worldwide Coverage, the only cryptocurrency miner that can mine 5 different cryptocurrencies at the same time whilst using virtually no energy, and it's VPN protected. Buy yours now at www.miner.spidervpn.org. Thanks to Skips and Bins, telephone 0800 25 45 25 3, email inquiries at skipsandbins.com, website www.skipsandbins.com, easy contract free and pay-as-you-go waste collection. Thanks to L&G Family Funeral Directors, 01913897245, and Garden of Healing Dispensary, CBD hemp and cannabinoid specialists, www.thegohd.com. Thanks to Away Day Clothing, and thanks to qtechshop.co.uk, the makers of pool tables and snooker tables in Wallsend, Newcastle, and the guys who run our website, NUFCmatters.com. Thanks to Mr. Vicky's Handmade in Cumbria. For more information on their sources, go to mrvickies.co.uk. And thanks to Media Arts for all the help with the video side of things. If you want to subscribe, hit the NUFC Matters logo in the bottom right-hand corner, and you can subscribe for free. Hit the thumb up to like the video and click share to share to your social media. We are available as a podcast on iTunes and Spotify, but for the next few days, we won't be uploading. Many eagle-eyed listeners will have realised we haven't uploaded anything since the 20th of June. It's just because the guy who does it from Media Arts is on a well-deserved holiday. So he will be back 4th of August and things will resume. So you'll just have to catch up with us on YouTube. If you want to join the cult, click join underneath the video or use your smartphone and go over the QR code and you can become a member. If you do it that way, you will get a cup, a pen, a membership card and a scarf and entry into the monthly draw. And if you subscribe, email john@nufcmatters.com to claim your free car sticker. We do support the food bank on here. NUFC fans, foodbank.co.uk is where you can make a virtual donation all year round. And don't forget, we've still got the Alan Shearer ball up for grabs. Get yourself to nufcmatters.com for your raffle ticket. Limited tickets available now. And Frank Clark will be with Gibbo Monday the 5th of December at the Tynemouth Surf Cafe. Get yourself across to their website or their Facebook for the link so you can buy some tickets for that particular event. Okay, we've got lots of questions coming in, but limited time to get through them. And just want to clear this one up. Anyone heard this rumour about Aaron Ramsey joining us? Is that just paper talk? What do you lads think if we got him? I've not heard that one, Chantel. No. I've got to be honest. Mitch and Stu.
I've seen all the comments about him, his club, getting rid of him. But
anything on the grapevine, Mitch?
No, not from my side.
No, there we go. That's a no. L. Stapleton.
No chance of nailing Blamodge to the ceiling and that happening.
Right. L. Stapleton says, is it true that Dubravka is linked with Leicester? If so, will we get a fee and not just give him away? Well, look, yeah, Dubravka is clearly not going to be happy not being number one, L. Stapleton. But I take everything you see about that story at this moment in time, I would say, with a pinch of salt. Let's see what happens. I don't think Newcastle will be keen on losing a goalkeeper before the season kicks off. Okay, Gary gives a question to the whole panel. So, Al-Walid, I will start with you. Question for the panel. How many players will come in now then after today's news? How many players do you think will come in? You're on mute, Al-Walid. You've done a Steve break.
Sorry. Until the end of the whole transfer window, I can say 3.
Okay, 3. Mitch, what do you reckon? Hand on
Four in and at least 3 or 4 out.
Okay, so plenty of business to be done. Steve?
Yeah, I still think there'll be 3 or 4, and it'll all happen at the end when everybody starts juggling around, and we've seen a few games, that teams will be realising where we need to strengthen. Shelby got an injury last night. Maybe we do need a central midfield player now that we maybe thought we didn't a couple of weeks ago.
Okay. Stu?
Minimum 3 in, minimum 4 out.
George?
I'd agree with that. 3 in, 4 out. Yeah.
Okay, excellent. This question is from our friend. Is he in Saudi Arabia, Al-Walid? I'm not sure. My question, will Newcastle fans dispense?
Yeah, his name is Abdullah. Yeah.
Okay, great. Abdullah, my question, he says, will Newcastle fans dispense with the Emirates flight and the experience of Saudi Airlines with the experience of drinking Saudi coffee and Al-Sukaria dates?
I can answer that.
Go for it.
Go ahead.
I actually like Saudi Airlines. I use it when I go from Bahrain to Riyadh. It's a really good airline. The seats are more comfortable than Emirates, but they don't have the video choices for the long hauls that Emirates have. And the last thing he said, I'm not a fan of coffee, so until they decide to change what's on the menu, then for long haul, I'll still have to use Emirates. But internal flights, I really do prefer Saudi. They're excellent.
Mitch, you'll have had a bit of experience in there.
I think it's win-win. My understanding is one option that's being looked at is to help Newcastle Airport grow into a hub that would benefit Saudi, but it would also benefit Emirates. Extended runway, which is something that's already been talked about, would allow Emirates to bring an A380 in, and that changes the game for them as well as Saudi. So, and
en route to America, Mitch.
Absolutely, and so you've got options there that would benefit everybody, and everybody in the Gulf loves a win-win situation. Everybody loves to benefit mutually, and it's the kind of discussion I think Emirates, Saudi, Newcastle Airport will be having in the not too distant future.
Okay, Piers Morgan on TalkSport saying he believes his friend Cristiano Ronaldo is leaving Manchester United, but will be stopping in the Premier League, and it will be a surprise. What's your thoughts on that, George? Ronaldo to Newcastle?
No, not for me. Thank you. I the number of times you and I talk on the looking back at the past, Steve, of players we've bought in the past who were good but were on the way down. Well, Cristiano's brilliant and had his day, in my view. No, we're looking to the future. We want to go forward, not backwards.
Stu, Ronaldo to Newcastle?
Any more nails for the blancmange?
Steve Wilkinson?
No, not for me. I think he doesn't fit into the culture that will seem to be developing in the changing room. So I cannot see that happening.
Mitch, he's too.
Yeah, I can't see
too
that.
much, isn't he?
I think there's too much baggage, if nothing else, and he comes with too many demands. And I think if you want the quickest way to destroy the dressing room, would be to bring someone like that in.
Yeah.
Al-Walid, would that be a good signing?
For me, I wish, but I know he's would like to just to play in Champions League for the records and any crashing numbers. So this is his interest.
Okay, Al-Walid, there's a question for you from Senk. Says, I want to ask Al-Walid about our new third kit, the green and white one. How many do you think will sell in Saudi Arabia realistically?
Actually, a lot of Saudi fans order it, but still they are, you can say, a bit sad about story, about delivery, and it's still late.
Still haven't got mine
at this rate.
DHgate arrived at the gym today. There was a few lads put orders in from them. 3 weeks it took. And
it's like I said last week, Steve. I had home and a third shirt ordered through Noon, our sleeve sponsor, who deliver here in the UAE. And I got an email off them. The original scheduled delivery date was in 3 days' time. And I got an email off them saying, unfortunate circumstances, the delivery will be delayed by at least another 2 weeks. Well, I'm going to be back in Newcastle by then. So I cancelled it, and I'm going to see what's around when I get back home. And that's a shame. And who loses out there? Not just me, but our sleeve sponsor. One of our new partners is embarrassed by that. And that's supply, and that's coming from one place. And let's hope the badges are all stuck the right way around and the collars don't fall off after your second wash, etc., etc.
McNeil going to Everton by the sounds of it from Burnley. So as Paul Stone says, that's another one to cross off the list. Steve Wilkinson, the Chronicle did have a story in tonight about two Newcastle fans, season ticket holders, not happy about the shop and the service that they had about the strip. It's not good, is it? I mean, they could have nipped this in the bud a bit quicker. It's probably the first criticism I've made of the new owners, and it's such a small thing to sort out, and yet they haven't really come out and said, we should be getting this right.
Yeah, well, I think this is under Darren Neal's department when he comes in, which I don't think he's coming in until middle of next month, isn't it? 22nd of August. So that's more of the day-to-day running of the club that you don't want. It's not priority for them at the moment. But I think as he comes in and dots all the I's and crosses all the T's in the various departments that have, I think we've talked about this in the past where there's still disarray going on in the ticket office, and the liaison with the shop, we shouldn't be. It probably should be our shop again. I think rather than having it been a third party. It was sold off, wasn't it? Castori run the shop, don't they? I think now in the club we don't have our own shop.
Yeah.
Right? So maybe we want to take that back on board, and then you have got total control on how it's run. But I think that'll all get sorted out going forward when Darren Reels gets in.
Yeah, Stuart, first bit of negativity, isn't it, really? And it's, as I say, it's a simple thing that they should have got right. I mean, the ticket office isn't far behind because, we're still going to get people grumbling and moaning about tickets. And, I saw somebody commenting this week about, tickets still available for these games, yet there's no ticket supposedly available, yet there's still links on the website. It's these little things that knock supporters.
I know, but imagine a world we got everything right. What the people who like to moan about anything going to do? So there's always going to be problems. I've said it before. We could win the Champions League in a few years' time 4-0, and people are complaining we should have won 5-0 or we should have won the season before. Castori has been. They've made a big mess of it. They've underestimated the demand. To me, it's not just a Newcastle problem. That's been highlighted in the press earlier in the week as well. But the biggest thing I think Newcastle fans should be angry with regarding Castori, and it's been overlooked, has been the fact that they're charging us more than what they do for the same for Wolves or Villa for exactly the same first strip, second strip. And to me, that is disgraceful. And for a company that's trying to brand themselves as premium sportswear, then you get your house in order first, don't you? And you sing from a higher place. But this shouldn't really reflect on the club. The one thing I said it last time I was on with you with the Amigos was, if it is the only bit of negativity I could even say about the club, not that I want to say anything negative at all about the new owners, is they've seen and they've excelled at communication. This is something that they've been very quiet with, and to me, I think they've been advised not to say anything about it, which can only be good for us. And I did touch on, if you remember, they can't just say to everyone, right, we've got a legal case here, we've changed brands now, because the new brand's not going to give everyone a free strip. And then you're going to have a bigger uproar with people saying I'm to spend 65 quid on the top and this and that. So I think we're just going to have to ride the storm. Thankfully, myself and Mitch will be over next week. I'll buy the blue strip, the new away one. I'll get that. And there's a few people over here who are asking for the white and green one, surprisingly, and a couple have asked for the blue one. But the one thing, and I don't want to say in favour repeat myself, because with something like this, I want to repeat myself, because I've mentioned it many times. PIF will employ the right people and back them, and they'll trust them, and they'll give them resources to succeed. And they didn't, and haven't bought us for any other reason other than to raise their own profile and to make money. And the funny way, you need to spend money to make money, and they will do this in the most sustainable and quickest way possible. And as a Newcastle fan, if that doesn't excite you, then I don't know what would, apart from, it depends what age you are, call it Samantha Fox or Rihanna or whatever, climbing into your bed. I don't know what else is going to get you excited as much as what these people are trying to do for us. They're doing it for themselves, but they're doing it for us. And without sounding like a party political broadcast for PIF, they really do want the area to succeed. And that's something Mitch touched on there with the hub, with the airport and things like that. The region will benefit as a whole, but predominantly Newcastle.
You missed Mitch off that list. Samantha Fox, Rihanna, or Mitch climbing into your bed.
Well, I better not say anything.
Put the smugglers in there.
That's what I mean. That's what I was thinking of.
Have you been spilling the beans there, Mitch? Because that was meant to be our secret, then.
No, my beans spilled out on Friday night, mate.
George, cover your ears. All you have. Just what's your thoughts on the strip, George?
Well,
what mixes?
I think I told you on here that when the green and white strip came out, I ordered mine straight away. Well, guess what? I still haven't got it. Now that's over 5 weeks, as far as I can remember. Anyway, it's a mess, and it doesn't shine well on anybody. But the fact is, what Castori's got to remember is, when the deal's up, the deal will be up. I'm sure about that. I mean, and I agree with Stu. That's something I was going to mention myself. I was astounded to see the difference in price with other clubs in the Premiership that they're making strips for. Wolves, particularly, they're about 10 or 15 quid cheaper than ours. I think that's outrageous. Absolutely outrageous. There's no reason other than money making out of that. I think that's just not on. So they're making a rod for their own back eventually, I think, and it's a pity. But as Stu says, we'll just have to ride it out until it's over.
John, that's a nightmare.
I'm laughing at that. From last night, isn't it?
For those of you who didn't watch, I did have a dream the other night about Tom Dixon basically asking us to help him do a job and then him driving off, leaving us shoeless when I was supposed to be getting on board a flight. I'm happy to announce I didn't have any dreams last night about Tom Dixon, so that's a relief. No offense, Tom. That's the end of the show. I am back tomorrow at 6 o'clock with Gibbo and Supermac. If those of you haven't noticed as well, the Brighton away game, rail strike has been confirmed for Saturday, August the 13th. So there's no drivers. That's the ASLEF strike. And when there's no drivers, there's no trains. So if you are planning to go to Brighton for that game on Saturday, August the 13th, then you probably
Not walking now.
Or drive. Oh, start walking. But don't do a job for Tom Dixon first because you'll have no shoes on. Okay.
I'll believe knows how to get back from Brighton. He can help.
Oh, yeah. That's always something with the Brighton.
Yes, you take the high roads and I'll take the long roads.
Harry would have hitched, Neil.
You would have.
Great stuff. I will see the lads for the Amigos as usual. I'll see you lads next Wednesday. Take care. Have a good week, lads.
Thanks,
Yes, everybody.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Thanks, everybody, for the...